Good evening, I'm political editor Dennis Welch, and this is Politics Unplugged. And Arizona lawmakers are now in session, and with Republicans still in the majority, Democrats are staking out their strategy. And with us today, Senate Minority Leader Katie Hobbs and Representative Rebecca Rios, the Minority Leader in the House. Thank you both for joining us. Really, before we get started here, I wanted to also mention that Republicans do hold the majority in both houses, and they really don't need Democrats to get anything done. We were asking the current Senate President, a Republican, whether things might change this year, and here's what he had to say earlier on the show.
Well, my preference would be to be a more bipartisan and to engage those folks. They're very, very talented people. They represent a substantial portion of the population, just as we do. And so at least my goal is to be more engaging in that regard.
Is he following through on that?
Yeah, I think so far he's pretty open with us, and you know, we meet with him regularly, talk about priorities and issues. So, yeah.
Any specific examples you can give us that he's brought Democrats in to really discuss about how to fix things or change things?
No, unfortunately not on the big issues. And we haven't really run up against any major, you know, disagreements in terms of policy that's going through the chamber as of yet. But
still early.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Do you feel like there's any sense you guys will be brought more into the budget process?
No.
That hasn't happened in years down there.
No, and I don't think it will change this year.
What's going on over at the House? Are you feeling the spirit of bipartisanship over there? Are you guys, Democrats, still kind of out in the wilderness?
No, absolutely. It's been very nice. You know, we often joke that it might just be the honeymoon period, but the new speaker has been very inclusive. He's actually been hearing Democrat bills in committees. They're being assigned, they're being heard, which is a big improvement over, you know, many previous sessions. So we're hopeful.
Anything specific stick out that you can recall here in the first few weeks of this session that they've brought Democrats in and said, we want your opinion on this?
Well, not yet.
Okay.
And we've yet to really address any major issues. So again, it's been light. It's been a honeymoon phase, but
Now, one issue that has gotten some bipartisan support is one that you know very well, and we're talking about testing of those rape kits out there.
Yeah.
It seems that everybody is on board. There's legislation now introduced by a Republican that would make sure that all of these untested rape kits throughout the state are, in fact, tested. Now, this is a big issue of yours. Is there any hope that anything else down at the legislature will get this kind of bipartisan support, things that have day-to-day implications?
I know there's issues that a lot of the Republicans are working on, and they're bringing us in, just the kind of rank and file members. I can't think of any one of them off the top of my head, but I think there are going to be some issues where they need Democratic support to get things through.
And what kind of issues could those be over in the House?
well, I think the biggest day-to-day issue that we're all facing is with regard to public education, and given Governor Ducey's amazing, you know, State of the State address on all the priorities he wanted to address, I think that's where we need to start, and probably that's where we need to focus.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about education. Governor Ducey obviously made that a very big priority. It's going to be the priority of the state this year. Now, Prop 123, which was passed in May of last year, did give some teachers some raises. Some others didn't get a raise. Now, he's promising to phase in a permanent 2% pay increase over the next 5 years, but in year one, that's 0.4%. Democrats are going to be on board with this?
You know, I was really surprised that the governor would put himself out there by giving a lot of big talk, a lot of promises to fund 15 different initiatives, and then with regard to teacher pay, literally propose something that's going to amount to about $8 a paycheck. I mean, that is insulting to teachers.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, we have the opportunity to work with the governor and tell him we can do one thing well, or you can do 15 things and not have an impact. And I think clearly with regard to teachers, the focus has to be on teacher pay. We have some 8,000 vacancies.
I mean,
right now.
But honestly, I mean, a lot of people are saying there's just not enough money there to really increase pay by much more than that. What do you say to that?
Well, I mean, the governor is putting a not insubstantial amount of money into K-12, but really it's kind of a mile wide and inch deep. There's not enough in any specific area that he's trying to target to have a real impact in any of those areas. And so we really need and the big issue that is facing us right now is this teacher shortage. It's at a point of crisis, and a 2% raise is not going to do anything to address that crisis.
Now, I want to play some sound that we got from earlier in the year. I believe this is the governor's guy, Daniel Scarpinato, along with the teacher, former teacher of the year.
The governor's whole goal is to drive up teacher salaries with everything we're doing. This is one part of it. It's what we've put forward this year.
But if we don't have qualified teachers in the classroom, then these other issues kind of don't matter. Like if you don't have the teachers to enact these programs, then the programs themselves don't really have much bearing.
So what would the Democrats propose to do with teacher pay, and how would they pay for it?
Well, I think right now what we've suggested is there's $46 million in ongoing revenue. There's another $113 million in one-time funds. And what we've suggested is let's give teachers a 4% increase this year. That's about $143 million. That's what it's going to take. Let's focus on that. Let's do one thing. Let's do one thing well. Because in Arizona, teacher pay is $15,000 less than the national average. That is the crisis that Republicans have created, and that's where we need to begin to address the crisis.
And do you think there's hope that you can change the governor's mind? Now, we saw that teacher there. She did deliver a letter to the governor proposing that 4% pay increase in year one. He said he was open to that letter and open to looking at these options. Is there any hope that by the time the budget's all said and done, he may change his position on this?
Well, I mean, I really don't have a sense of where the rest of the Republicans are in terms of the governor's proposals, and I think that is where that's where things could change or not change. If the Republicans are on board with the governor's proposal, then he doesn't need us to be on board with it, and so that's where the issue is.
Now, there's another issue I know that is big with the educators, specifically in K-12, and that is building and construction. Now, the governor did mention it very briefly in his State of the State address, but do you feel that he's paying enough attention to that issue? I mean, given the fact, I keep pointing this out, like in Glendale, you had 2 schools closed because they were structurally unsound. This was during the fall, in the middle of a school year.
He's pointed out 15 areas that need to be addressed in public education. Democrats couldn't agree more, but he's not offering the money to do it. And folks need to remember that they put us in this situation. If you look back, since 2008, the tax cuts that have taken place have resulted in $1.8 billion less in our general fund. The governor promoted Prop 123. That restored 18%. So in Arizona, we are still $1.2 billion less than we were in 2008 in public school funding. And in 2008, we ranked 44th. We're, what, 49th now? I mean, this is going to take a major investment. At the end of the day, this is a man that year after year after year has enacted corporate tax cuts. And yet you had the Arizona Republic do a poll of CEOs that have said the major impediment to economic growth in Arizona is the K-12 system and the provision of an educated workforce. We don't need more tax cuts, but yet that is the same response that Republicans continue to give. That's their mantra. They continue to give tax cuts, and yet they're tone deaf, right? Everybody in Arizona is saying we need an investment in public education, and until people hold the governor accountable, he's going to continue to give a lot of platitudes and literally no money to back it up.
Well, any talk on your side in the Senate about increasing money for school construction and maintenance? Because as we know, like, some people will tell you that it is short hundreds of millions of dollars every year since they suspended that funding formula a few years back.
It's certainly something that's on the list of our priorities, and the big, and it has been for the last several years. The big question is, where does the money come from? And Representative Rios, hit that nail on the head. We've continued to give it away in corporate tax cuts, and until we do something different on the revenue side of the equation, we're going to have to keep cutting instead of investing where we need to.
Okay, and I want to get your reaction to one other thing. Obviously, we're getting ready to host the Final Four. Governor Doug Ducey was at a ceremony earlier last week when we asked him whether, Arizona's laws here regarding LGBTQ members of that community were sufficient, since they are not a protected class. And last year we saw that the NCAA was pulling out of North Carolina because of their laws with LGBTQ community. Here's what the governor had to say when we asked him if, this should be a protected class.
Well, everyone knows I'm against discrimination in all its forms. I think what happened in North Carolina was different in many ways because it happened during the legislative session. We're excited to host the NCAA final. We had the College Football National Championship here last year without incident. The year before that, we had the Super Bowl.
Now, what you didn't hear is him saying that he thinks that it should be a protected class. Just get your reaction to his comments.
Well, I'm excited because Senator Hobbs and myself are both introducing a bill that would extend protections to gender identity and sexual orientation. So if he is truly supportive of that, then I would expect he would let the Speaker and the President know, and those bills would get a hearing, be voted on, and the governor would sign them into law. Again, it's not about what you say, it's about what you do.
And Senator Hobbs, I'll give you the final word on this.
Yeah, I mean, I actually am pretty extremely disappointed in his reaction, because I think the final word was, yeah, I understand they're not protected, and I'm not going to ask the legislature to do anything about that.
All right, that's all the time we have for this segment. We're going to have to take a quick break, but we have lots more to come here on Politics Unplugged. Coming up next, we just mentioned the Final Four coming to town, and Glendale will be hosting those games. Just ahead, how the West Valley City is working to gain some positive attention. And Donald Trump gets to work signing executive orders. He says that means he could begin building a border wall within months. Coming up, the new president on the job.
Family is more than a last name. It's those who support you when times get tough. And for 3TV, family is at the center of what we do. That's why we're doing more stories about the things that really matter to you. Landing a great job, keeping more of what we earn, and living a confident, positive life, even in uncertain times. Because that's what families do. 3TV, Arizona's family.
American Furniture Warehouse has some incredible special purchases.
End-of-the-year inventory numbers force factories to clear out their warehouses and sell excess merchandise. That means you'll get great bargains. Check out this Bentley collection, starting with the sofa at $288. The sofa with this Lola Stone collection is only $298. We have this bonded leather sectional in 2 colors for $498. These are one-time purchases at huge discounts, and we're passing the savings on to you.
Here at American Furniture Warehouse.
Having a baby takes a lot of preparation.
And since we have movie nights whenever he falls asleep, we decided to switch to Cox and get Contour TV. We also got high-speed internet, so our families can see the baby anytime. Say hi.
Get the new Contour and Cox high-speed internet with 50 megabits per second for just $89.99 a month. Free Pro install and HD receiver included.
And since we have unlimited nationwide calling, we can call Mom anytime for advice.
Switch to get free unlimited nationwide and international calling to over 30 countries, 50 megabits per second internet, and over 50,000 on-demand titles. No contract for just $89.99 a month.
Cox gave us all this without a contract, just in case we need to plan for more.
Already?
Get 50 megabits per second internet, the new Contour, and free international calling to Mexico and other countries. No contract for just $89.99 a month with free Pro install and HD receiver included. Switch today.
Do you or a loved one have arthritis, pain, and stiffness in your knees or hips? If so, you may qualify for local research studies. You may receive payment which varies by study up to $1,000. No cost study-related care for the study duration. No cost to you. No health insurance or referrals needed. To see if you qualify, call 866-304-4556 today. That's 866-304-4556. Or visit badkneepain.com.
And welcome back to Politics Unplugged. Well, the city of Glendale is getting lots of positive attention lately. A big change from the last few years when the city budget was strained, along with relations with both the Arizona Coyotes and the Cardinals. Now, with the Final Four tournament coming to town, lots of jobs coming here. It's a very different picture. And joining us now to talk about this turnaround is Kevin Phelps of the Glendale city manager. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Thank you very much for coming here. I want to start with the Gila River Arena. Currently, it's home to the Coyotes, but been a lot of disputes over fees and payments there, and they've made no secret that they'd like to maybe go someplace else. What's the status on that right now?
Well, I think we'd like to make it that it's not a secret as well. We'd like to keep them here in Glendale. We think it's a fabulous arena. And, you know, we recognize, I think the community has to do a better job of supporting the franchise. We certainly have committed from our side to help do that. But we've got, you know, we've encouraged them to look at a longer-term lease arrangement with the arena. We've offered them what is considered one of the best arena lease deals in the NHL, and so we'll let it play out where it's at, but we clearly want them to continue to stay home in Glendale.
It seems like they've got quite a bit of leverage here, because if they pull stakes out of there, what does that do economically for that area? That leaves a big hole there in that part of Glendale.
Well, certainly we would prefer to keep them there. The Westgate Entertainment District, however, is thriving and growing by a large amount. We have a lot of new development in and around that area, but again, we would want to keep them there.
But that is going to hurt economically. I mean, you got to be honest with that. If they pull stakes out of there, that Westgate community may be thriving right now, but you're going to be losing a lot of revenue from people going down there for games.
It clearly would have an impact.
Okay. And so how do you go about rebuilding a relationship like that?
Well, again, I think we had to let this play out. You know, it's an interesting public policy discussion as to whether you should be issuing new public debt when we still have $144 million of debt that we're still paying off that was issued by the public to build the arena originally. But again, we're just going to stay engaged. We're not actively out, you know, lobbying against it, because there's not a proposal to even lobby against. We're just trying to rebuild the relationship where possible.
Now, having gone through all this now, what lessons can be learned from, you know, bringing these sports teams into your town? We've seen the Cardinals go there, the Coyotes go there. It's got, you know, been a strained relationship, particularly with the Coyotes. What lessons can be learned? What would you do differently?
Well, I think they're important partnerships to have. And, you know, we're real excited about the work we've done to repair the relationship with the Arizona Cardinals. It was also a fractured relationship that had many, many years of bad relationship. But they're important what they can do in your community. And so we want to treat them as an important asset. We want to value what they bring and what they contribute to the area. And I am convinced that if we can solve the issue with the Arizona Cardinals and with ASDA, that we can eventually find a solution for the Arizona Coyotes.
Yeah, and so there's some, you know, Phoenix is dealing with an issue now. You know, the Suns may be looking for a new home. The Diamondbacks are definitely looking for a new place. There's some massive improvements there. Do you think it's still a good idea for the public to be public monies to be invested so heavily in these sports arenas?
I think that it's a great strategy for the state of Arizona, where tourism is such a huge part of our local economy. We're one of only about 14 markets in the country that has all 4 professional sport franchises here. Every day in every newspaper in the country, they're talking about the city of Phoenix, the Arizona, the valley here. I think they're important assets to have. I think we have a responsibility.
Okay, I was going to say, but you know, at the end of the day, as the old saying goes, is the juice worth the squeeze? All the money that's been put in that, and the havoc is kind of created for your city. Is it worth it for other towns, for people to be public monies to be invested in these, or should sports teams be ponying up more money to build their own stadiums?
Well, I think my encouragement would be to really dive into this very carefully, because you are making a long-term commitment. In our case, we issued bonds for 30 years, and yet after a fairly short period of time, we're already facing the opportunity that the team could leave. So I think there's a lot of risk there, but again, we're hopeful we'll still find a good solution. And
tell us now, we're 60-some days away from the Final Four coming here. Where's the city at with preparations?
Well, we're real excited. Obviously, we're real involved on the traffic and public safety side of the operation, but our team is really fully engaged. We expect this to be a very smooth Final Four. We have a huge advantage, having 2 Super Bowls and the college football championship game series that was here last year. We're really, we think, very prepared as a community to accommodate such a large event.
Gotcha. And in particular with security there, what's the kind of cost it's costing the city right now? Are you getting help from anywhere else to pay for that extra additional security?
Yeah, we'll clearly incur some costs, especially on the traffic side, but that's what we do. But we're very comfortable with the relationship that we have with the NC2A, the Final Four committee, and with ASDA. And so it's a little bit different scale than for the Super Bowl, but we're very comfortable where we're at.
Now let's move on a little bit to the local economy out there. Now, obviously, things are looking up there for your community. Jobs are coming out there, and that includes a massive facility for Con Air. Now, tell us a little bit about that project.
Well, I think this is another great example of the importance of partnerships. Right before I got here, we were litigating with one of our largest landowners, commercial owners in Glendale, which was Con Air. We were able to solve that litigation, and then immediately they've begun construction on almost a 900,000 square foot expansion, which will wind up creating the second largest business park in the valley. But it shows you the power of a partnership. And so we're really excited about what's going on there. Our economic development department, just with our expansion program and new job recruitment, created 1,500 new jobs this year. What we know is in the pipeline, because we've got about 3 million square feet of commercial space coming online, we have about another 1,500 jobs we'll be creating this year as well.
So basically, as a city manager, you're basically the CEO, really, of the city of Glendale, and you've got to go out and market that to people across the country. I mean, given, you know, the rocky past here with Glendale with its finances and some very public fights with some sports teams, how do you go out and market Glendale to other to companies and lure them to come to your community?
You know, my father had the old saying, you know, what you do speaks so loud I can't hear what you're saying. I think first and foremost that as a city, our employees, we have to make sure we understand we're public servants. We're not self-servants, we're public servants. Just go out and do the right things. Accommodate business, speed to market, make sure we can issue permits and plans, that we use good common sense in how we do things, provide the right infrastructure. And I think if we just continue to do the right things, that really the business community, which is already doing it, will be our best promoter of Glendale and what's happening in Glendale.
So what's this year going to look like? What do you got in the pipeline that you're hoping, maybe trying to land right now, or you expect to happen in this current year?
Well, we have a couple major developments. Unfortunately, I can't really speak to them because they're highly unpublic.
Anybody.
Yeah, but I will tell you, our econ development team will tell you it is the busiest we have been in probably 10 or 15 years. The amount of growth that's happening here, we're real excited about it.
And does having the NCAA Final Four here, having big events, does that help?
Absolutely, it helps. I think it gives a lot of community pride. The reality is people in Detroit know where Glendale, Arizona is at. And I came from a community very similar in size, Tacoma, Washington, but trust me that the amount of people who know where Tacoma's at versus Glendale, it pales in comparison.
All right, thanks a lot for taking some time to come and join us. But we're going to have to take another break, but we have lots more to talk about here on Politics Unplugged. The governor made one offer, but teachers want more. Just ahead, negotiating the cost of high-quality teachers. And Donald Trump floats the idea of an import tax to make Mexico pay for the wall. A closer look at the diplomacy of tariffs. Next on Politics Unplugged.
When you've had one too many, you make bad decisions. When this happens, pick up the phone and make the right decision. Got nailed? Get Lerner and Rowe.
Lerner and Rowe is the way to go. Call 977-1900.
We believe in rock and roll. We believe in turning up the heat and the fun. At Del Webb, we believe in life well led. In your own beautiful home. In an active adult community with sushi eaters, artists, and you. We believe you'll like it here. Visit Sun City Festival or Sun City Anthem and discover 2 new inspired designs by Del Webb. Not just a new home, a new way to think about living. Go to delwebb.com/Phoenix.
It's not what we ride that defines us. It's what happens along the way. We may not know where the ride will take us, but one thing's for sure. With the Law Tigers, you never ride alone. If you're injured in a motorcycle accident, call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS, Arizona's motorcycle lawyers.
If you've been diagnosed with lung cancer, explore your treatment options with a team of specialists at Cancer Treatment Centers of America in Phoenix, one of only 6 hospitals in the country to be recognized by the Joint Commission for Lung Cancer Care.
We have a well-orchestrated team to help patients be treated well.
We have tremendous technologies that allow us to treat patients in a very accurate fashion.
The evolution of cancer care is here at cancercenter.com/Phoenix.
I am Karina Gonzalez. I am the first Hispanic principal ballerina for the Houston Ballet. I have worked so hard my entire life for this.
Hola, mami, ¿cómo estás?
Whatever you want in life, don't be afraid to go for your dreams.
Greatness is within reach. Right now, you can get a great deal on the Civic, KBB.com's overall Best Buy for 2017. From Honda.
Sharing. Pass it on. A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
We know car accidents don't always happen Monday through Friday. If you're hurt in a car wreck, we're available for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You don't have to wait until Monday to get the help you need now.
977-1900.
And And welcome back to Politics Unplugged. It is now time to talk it out with our partners from First Strategic. And with us today is Kurt Davis and Barry Dill. Thank you guys for joining us. I want to start with you, Kurt, real quick about that teacher pay. It's about it's an extra $15 a month for that first year for that 0.4% raise. Is this just a negotiating tactic with the governor? Are we going to see more money at the end of the day?
Yes and yes, but also realize the governor is dealing with a multi-year strategy, and he was very clear that this is the beginning of a multi-year strategy.
Yeah, is a 2% raise, though, even at the end of the day, going to stop the flow of teachers from leaving the profession?
No, absolutely not. No, absolutely not.
And that's not what the strategy
No, it's going to bring new teachers into wanting to be teachers anymore. So, no, there's going to have to be more incentives than just what's been proposed. But to Kurt's point, it is a negotiating tactic. And to your point, you know, they're going to have to meet somewhere else. That's the art of negotiation.
And it's never enough. It's never enough.
Well, but the teachers don't participate in that. It's never enough. Maybe for the administrators, for the school districts, for others, the teachers don't ever get to participate.
But that's a larger issue that the governor also has a very specific interest in. Bingo.
The teachers never get any.
Obviously, education always a very heated issue. Let's move on, of course, because you can never ignore Donald Trump apparently these days. So obviously, he sent off a flurry of executive orders over the past week. Everything from you know, the pipeline to a flurry of action on immigration. Now, Kurt, you predicted that Donald Trump was somebody who was going to measure his success by getting things done. How much can he get done on executive orders alone?
Not a lot alone. And I mean, even if you look at, for example, the wall executive order, it's basically to speed up the permitting process in the beginnings. You have to still have a congressional, the purse strings have to be pulled by Congress, and it stipulates that in the executive order. So these are the launching points. They're not the be-all end-all.
What I think I've learned about this guy is that what many of us call bluster and all of that are really negotiation techniques that he's learned over a lifetime. And in the art of negotiation, you always bid high, and the person you're dealing with always bids low, and you hope to come to somewhere in the middle. And it would appear like this is his style, and I guess we're going to have to be prepared for more of this kind of thing. But he has no idea how any of this stuff is going to get done.
And what do you guys take with his talk about Mexico? Obviously, he floated out this idea of a 20% tariff on goods coming north of the border. I mean, how is this going to affect Arizona?
Well, I think it's what Barry just said, by the way. I think Barry is accurate in what he said about it. It's a negotiating ploy. I also have said previous on the show, Mexico will pay for the wall. And the way it'll be paid for on the wall will be the negotiations for the continuation or non-continuation of NAFTA. That's where the let's play the soundbite where Donald Trump is talking about that canceled meeting with the Mexican president. Here it is.
The President of Mexico and myself have agreed to cancel our planned meeting scheduled for next week. Unless Mexico is going to treat the United States fairly, with respect, such a meeting would be fruitless.
So obviously, Arizona depends heavily on trade and its partnership with Mexico. With what he's talking, the rhetoric and what he's doing right now, is that threatening the state's economy?
He's negotiating. Yes, it is, because the citizens of Arizona are the ones who pay for it. Kurt's party have all of a sudden turned into the tax and spend party now in Washington, D.C.
I mean, just floating the idea of throwing tariffs on these, that's very much an anti-Republican stand.
We've talked about it for the longest period of time now. He did not run as a free trade for free trade's sake guy, so nobody should be surprised about that. Number two is, it's one of the paramount issues that propelled him to the presidency. Is the idea that we're going to have to deal with trade differently, or we're going to continue to bleed American jobs overseas. And you know what? I don't think anybody, personally, I guess I'd be surprised why anybody would be shocked what he's talking about. It's exactly the same thing he talked about in the campaign.
There are about 15 seconds left.
I'm just shocked about the way he's talking about it, which is just to infuriate everyone.
The union guys were really happy about it.
Throw mud at the wall and see what happens.
Barry just doesn't like that his constituencies.
All right, guys, we're going to have to wrap it up right now. That is all the time we have for Politics Unplugged tonight. Be sure to join us next week for more Politics Unplugged. Good night.